All right, everyone, welcome into Around the Felt. I am your host, Reagan Loescher, here with a special guest tonight. We got Mr. Zack Tong from Around the Octagon. Zack, thank you for joining us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm pretty pumped up. That intro had me fired up. I think we might take that over back to Octagon, man. Learning from the
Yeah,
originals here.
yes, sir. Yeah, it's nice with the music and stuff. StreamYard, what a platform. But, I appreciate you filling in tonight to replace Colin. Man, and honestly, we may have to make this a full-time gig because, Colin went 3-12 on the spread last week, and Garrett, who filled in for Colin, also went 3-12 on the spread. So we may have to just make you my permanent co-host because, boy, did those chumps sell last week.
Yeah, that's rough. And one thing I will say, as far as Colin goes, I can kind of bring a little of him to this podcast and start off by saying, "Oh wow, it's another recap pod we're filming, and my New York Football Giants still are not winning ball games." So I can carry that over, and we still have that dynamic going on.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, another rough week for New York sports teams. I don't have much to say on that. But honestly, what I will say is this might be one of the most, if not the most exciting week of football I've ever seen in my life. If you were watching Red Zone out there, for those of you listening right now, there was a point where there was like um, 4 blocked field goals like simultaneously. Like there was a blocked field goal in the Jet game, blocked field goal in the Browns Packers game, blocked field goal in the Eagles Rams. And I think there was one more I'm thinking of, or some other big play happened as well. But it was like it seemed like all these games were just flipping over at the end, and had crazy endings in that 1 p.m. slate. And I don't remember a 1 p.m. slate like that. Oh no, and the fourth one was Steelers Patriots. Like with that game closing it out, so it was all coming down to the wire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 of those 1 p.m. games came down to like the final possession. So just a really exciting week 3, but I would say definitely one of the most exciting ones I've seen.
You know what's weird though is
Um,
that
mhm.
sorry for cutting in here at all, but there's a lot of games that went down to the wire. Then you had a lot of blowouts too on the flip side of that coin, like that Dallas game. They got whooped on the Seahawks whooped up on the Saints. The Commanders whooped up on the Raiders. So there was a lot of beatdowns in there too.
Oh yeah, there was a ton of them. There really was a ton of them. To be honest, like and honestly with Mariota, that really did shock me a lot. That really did. I didn't think they were going to put that kind of ass whooping on the Raiders, but they really did. They
Yeah,
really
neither
did.
did I. Neither did I.
So, all right. Well, let's get into the question. You know what? Now let me pull up the injuries because there was a couple injuries this weekend. I know a big one right away, which hurts me a lot and hurts the 49ers fans a lot. But Nick Bosa unfortunately did end up suffering a torn ACL, which is a major blow to that 49ers defense that started out hot out of the gate. He was my depoy pick. They had thought at first that he would be all right and didn't suffer it, but ultimately he did tear his ACL. So, that is a major blow to that defense. And then some other big ones, Najee Harris as well tore his he tore his Achilles actually. So right away, you feel bad for Najee, a guy that was on a 1-year deal trying to, play himself into a future contract, whether that was with the Chargers or with another team. Now he's, who knows what he's going to look like next year, when he'll be back, and, who will give him another chance because, he already kind of was on his prove it type chance. But I will say for those of you Marion Hampton owners, this is, good for you in the sense where like Najee was really cutting into it, where now I think he'll take over the full workload.
Yeah,
Do you
100%. I
have
agree
any
with you on that.
Hampton stock in any of your leagues, Zach?
No, I don't have any Hampton stock. I did see your Felt 5 play, wasn't it Hampton 100 plus? I know I didn't hit, but
Yeah, it was my 3 unit and it was at plus 2200, and when Najee went down, I'm like, oh shit, like this really has a chance. And he was getting a lot of work, but they were trailing most of the third and fourth, so that kind of unfortunately hurt that one. And another big injury, James Conner out for the season with a right ankle injury that he suffered. It's really bad. It was gruesome if you saw it. There's a lot of damage there. So another guy where you hate to see it, an older back who was, such a key part of that Cardinals offense. But, if Trey Benson's on your waivers in any fantasy leagues, he's a must pick up. He's like the most high priority ad if he's out there. And, that's like, to me, like that's a full fab dump because I think he'll get, at least 60 to 70% of the touches in that offense now.
Yeah, and that's tough on my end because I have a lot of James Conner stock actually, so I have some thin depth on both of my rosters, so I got to figure something out as far as that goes. Probably gonna have to find a trade partner out
Yep.
there. Crampton, if you're listening,
Yeah.
you can make something happen maybe.
Honestly. And then CeeDee Lamb with the ankle injury. I saw a lot of different reports about when he'll be back, but it sounds like, they're going to reevaluate him in a week or two. So I would imagine that he'll be out at least week 4, probably week 5. So I think, he'll be looking to aim for week 6 earliest, which, massive blow this week because he may as well have been out. But the only downside is you actually started him with him going out so early. He had 0 points, and it's unfortunate, and to lose a first-round pick for a couple games is, another massive blow. So a lot of impactful fantasy injuries this week. But all right, that's really all we have for the injury news. I'm going to get into the questions now. So the first question comes in from Mr. Caleb Dean. He wants to know, through 3 weeks, rank the teams that you think have a top 3 and bottom 3 offense. So he wants to know, are the teams that the best? All right, let me rephrase that. He wants to know the top 3 offenses in our opinion and the bottom 3 offenses in our opinion through 3 weeks in the NFL. So right away, I mean, the top 3 to me is the Bills have just been putting up numbers in droves. I mean, they put up 30 points in every game. The Ravens have looked really good through 2 games. I mean, we'll see how they look against the Lions tonight. And probably third, honestly, would be the Buccaneers, because with all those injuries, they're still, producing a lot. So I factor that in. Or you can go with the Eagles, but the Bucs have so many injuries on that offensive line. So I definitely factor that in, that, Baker Mayfield's essentially playing with all backup linemen and still putting up big production. But what are some offenses you like through the first couple weeks?
I think you kind of have to go with both the Ravens and the Bills. I think those are 2 just must takes out there. Then it gets a little difficult because, like, you look at week 1, the Lions got shut down by the Packers, but week 2 they threw up a 50 burger over the Bears. Everyone scores on the Bears though, so I don't know how much stock to really put in that. I guess yeah, I don't really know with the Lions. It's kind of hard to put them in that top 3, I don't know if you want to go and look at. I think the Bucs is a pretty decent shout. I mean, the Commanders put up a bunch of points last week. They didn't really do too much against the Packers or the Giants week 1. So I don't know. There's not really too much more to add on off of what you said. The Chargers offense has scored when they've needed to score. They've won games, but they're not putting up 30 plus a game either.
Yeah, that's true too. The Chargers really, I mean, that offense has looked good. Justin Herbert's is, really making an MVP case. I saw he's now 3rd in the MVP race behind, in terms of Vegas odds at plus 550, only behind Allen and Lamar. So he's in a really good spot through 3 weeks. And I think ultimately, if it does come down to all 3 of those guys and it's really neck and neck, he'll probably get the nod just with voter fatigue. But he looks great.
Yeah.
So some bottom 3 offenses to me. I mean, you could say the Jets, terrible offense. The Titans, which, is expected, unfortunately, with all the injuries and stuff they have. Or, I'm sorry, not all the injuries, but just the lack of talent they have. And another bad offense for me is really the Saints. I mean, Rattler is not a good quarterback. They haven't really been able to put up a ton of points so far. And unfortunately, like, Kamara and Olave aren't bad weapons. It's just, I think it ultimately comes down to Rattler. So those are 3 offenses that stick out to me right away.
Yeah, another one I'd put on that list is the Houston Texans. They've scored 38 points this
Right.
year through 3 games. And if you're looking at it as far as expectations goes, they're the worst. Averaging under 13 points a game is just severely disappointing for Houston. So they're another one I throw in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, no, and honestly with the Texans, like I had them going 7-10 before the season, and my biggest reason for why I was so down on them was because of their offense. Like, their defense is sick. We can see it so far. Like, the defense has been honestly getting fucked because of how good they've been playing. I mean, they've only allowed 51 points. So, to allow 51 points through 3 games, with 20 points being the most you've allowed, and being 0-3 is very rough.
Yeah, you could say that
So
again.
yeah, so I don't know, and so but that I mean, really, we'll see. That the Texans are probably one of the biggest teams right now, where it's like, you know, it's go time. If they continue to lose, like, it's going to be a rough season to turn around, especially because they're 0-3. Jacksonville's 2-1, but they just beat them head to head, and the Colts are 3-0. Like, that division, they're slipping away really quick. All right, and his second question: should I be starting Quinshon Judkins in fantasy going forward? 100% yes, you should be starting Quinshon Judkins. He had 18 of the 19 rushing attempts. He looked way more explosive than Jerome Ford or Dylan Sampson has. And that Green Bay defense is legit. It wasn't like he did it against the cupcake run defense. He looked really good. I mean, 18 for 94 and a touchdown. Only the one catch and 2 targets. So you don't love that. I mean, Jerome Ford's clearly still going to be the third down back there, but I don't care. I mean, that's all you need to see is the 18 of 19 carries. They're planning on using this guy as like a full workhorse in this offense. He'll probably have 70% of the touches. And honestly, in that one game alone, he's already looked better than, Genti has through 3. Through TreVeyon Henderson has looked through 3. And honestly, Hampton has only really started to look good in that second half of the Chargers game once Harris went out. So he already looks to be one of the best rookie running backs, and it's only been one, full game.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there, Reagan. I don't see Quinshon Judkins' snap share going down. He's only going to get the ball more and more as the season goes on, and it's very encouraging to see the kind of volume he's getting this early.
Yeah, and I would think, I definitely view him higher with Joe Flacco as the quarterback, where if one of these rookies step in, which I think will happen at some point, it's a downgrade for the whole entire offense. But we'll cross that bridge when it gets there. But for now, I mean, to me, he's like a solid RB2 with RB1 upside.
That's true, and it's also not like their offense is putting up too many points right now, though, anyways. So I don't know if they're going to be scoring much less, even with one of those rookies per se.
That's
but
true.
I mean,
it's true. He was very relevant, and they only put up 13 points, and he had a great week for fantasy.
Yeah.
So his next question: who's going to get a win first, the Jets or the Giants? Which New York team is going to get a win? Is there an option for neither? Could they both go 0-17?
The Giants have the Saints in 2 weeks.
So it really comes down to the Jets have the Dolphins this week. So the Jets have the first crack at like a winnable game because I don't think the Giants are going to beat the Chargers. And then the Giants have the Saints and the Jets have the Cowboys after that. So the Jets really have 2 solid shots over the next 2 weeks, where the Giants have the Saints. Then the Giants got the Eagles. Jets have the Broncos in London, which I think is not winnable. But then the Jets have the Panthers, Bengals, Browns, Patriots, where the Giants have a very hard schedule. They have then the Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, 49ers. So realistically, it should be the Jets based off of what I just said, having like, a couple coin flip games where the Giants have 1 coin flip game. But I have no confidence in them. Confidence in them. At least the Giants offense, showed some big flashes against Dallas. But then again, I guess the Jets offense showed some big flashes against the Steelers. So you're ultimately looking at 2 teams that have looked terrible. And it's like, oh, well, they had that 1 of 3 games where their offense looked good. And then the other 2, they looked terrible. So I don't know. I guess the Jets, just because the Jets should be. But I'm getting to the point where it's like, let's just keep losing.
Yeah, dude. I do think the Giants beat the Saints. I think they're a better team than the Saints. I think they have more talent than the Saints, but I don't know. The Jets could beat the Dolphins. I think they very realistically could win next week. It's a very difficult question to answer. I'd probably favor the Dolphins over the Jets, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a
what
coin flip.
what I think may happen is both teams are going to lose this week and both teams are going to win next week. Because honestly, I think Dallas's defense is terrible. I think any offense can go off against them, so I think that bodes well for the Jets. But we'll see. We'll see. Good question, though, Caleb. Good question about 2 very bad teams. All right, let's move on to Jake Lackey. All right, Jake Lackey, thanks for submitting some questions. I know that's one of Garrett's Kutztown boys, but should Ladd McConkey owners be concerned with Keenan Allen and Quinton Johnston's volume? What about keeper, and what about dynasty? So, yeah, we can break it down into 3 parts. For redraft, 100%. You should be very concerned because right now, and that was mine and Colin's biggest reason for hesitancy with this is there's so many mouths to feed in this offense. Quinton Johnston obviously has had a nice breakout in year 3. Keenan Allen was Justin Herbert's guy prior, and we knew that they already had the connection, so that would return. And they spent such big capital on Hampton that I imagine his role is going to continue to grow. So I'd be very concerned. He is not going to return on that second-round value. In Dynasty, no, I'm not worried because Keenan Allen's probably got like 1 or 2 years left, and then he's going to go back to being, that target machine. And in Keeper, I mean, yeah, you're not going to keep him. I don't think you're going to want to spend a second-round pick on him after this season and be like giving up a second-rounder. So, yeah, I mean, outside of Dynasty, I'd be worried for Keeper and redraft. What about you?
Yeah, 100% nervous for any redraft leagues. Keenan Allen has gotten 28 targets through 3 games. That's a pretty, I don't think that's a number that anyone was really expecting going into this year. Even with him returning back to the Chargers, a place he was comfortable. I know, like you touched on, Herbert is a big Keenan, or that was his guy a few years ago. But I don't think you were expecting him to have that type of target share with all the mouths they have to feed in that offense. And then Quinton Johnston's getting another 8 to 10 targets a game. And I don't know, they do throw the ball a lot, man. They throw the football a lot, but Harbaugh likes running the ball too, man. I don't know. I'd definitely be nervous as far as redraft goes. Dynasty, Keenan Allen's not scaring me in a dynasty league, just like you were talking about. It's only going to be there. What is he on, like a 1 or 2 year deal?
Yeah, I believe. Let me pull it up. I believe it's just a 1-year deal. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I don't think like Keenan Allen has a long-term plan of continuing to play football past
1-year
a
deal.
couple seasons.
1-year deal.
So
5.
now I'm not nervous as far
5
as
million.
I'm not nervous as far as the dynasty league goes, because even then, bro, you can't be nervous about Keenan Allen on your team when you don't even know what team you're going to be on in 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Ryan. His first question is thoughts on the Jets game. Ryan, I mean, I'll get obviously more into depth after, but that's just life as a Jet fan. That is just life as a Jet fan. It's nothing new. I mean, I guess the nice thing it was to see that they didn't give up. I mean, the defense still looks terrible. I mean, anyone that thinks the defense played well is wrong. We're going against all backup linemen, and they had holding call after holding call, and somehow still, Baker Mayfield and like 3 or 4 or 5 non-normal starters were able to beat us. So the season's over. It's over at this point. Maybe we could trade Tyrod at the deadline because he showed enough where it's like, all right, this guy's a capable backup, but I don't think Fields is the answer. So it's tank for somebody. We just don't know tank for who, because a lot of the top guys they were saying before this year, you want to tank for him, look bad. So even that, so it's really like nothing good to look forward to right now, because all those prospects, it's like we don't even know which ones are going to go into the draft because a lot of them are struggling in college. But
yeah, I don't have anything to add as far as the Jets go. Did Mike Evans get hurt in that game, by the way, talking about injuries?
Yeah, he got banged up. I think he'll be fine, but yeah, he did get banged up with I believe it was a hamstring. Because I know he did leave the game, and then it was like, oh, well, Mike Evans is gone, and it's like they're just still getting it done. Yeah, low grade hamstring injury, so at most I'd imagine he'll miss like a week or 2, but we'll see. Ryan also said, fun fact, it has been 260 days since a New York football team has won a regular season game. Based on both team schedules, who do you all think will get the first win for New York? So we did kind of talk about that already. But I'm going to go with neither. But that is quite the fact, man. I mean, 260 days since a New York football team has won. And I guess I don't even know. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, that is absurd. 260 days. Well, get it to 365. Get it to the full year. Let's do it. Why not? Just keep losing both teams. That would be incredible if it got to 365.
So I'm just waiting for some smart ass in the comments to be like, "Oh, the Buffalo Bills." Duh. Fuck that guy before he even says it.
There's gonna be someone if I clip that. It probably will. That's funny. All right, let's move on. Shawnee Mo wants to know, should Scataboo be the Giants RB1 after this big game against the Chiefs? I know Tracy is already been injured. I believe he's a shoulder injury, so he's going to miss some. So I think he'll be the RB1. No, what I'll say from on TV and you game, so you could probably talk about it in a different light. He looked good to me. He already looks like he's one of the best rookie running backs. I know that was kind of the Chiefs' game plan where they wanted them to run the football and they were like, we're going to take out Malik Neighbors. But he looked good. He looks like he hits hard. He runs hard. Keeps runs going alive. Like he already looks like a steal for the Giants. And not only that, he looked a lot better than Tyrone Tracy. So even if Tracy didn't get hurt, I think he would have been cutting into the role more. I know Dable even said he earned himself more touches. But yeah, I mean, I think if you took him in dynasty or redraft leagues, you're going to get yourself a league winner this year because he seems to be a nice bright spot in that offense.
Yeah, I'm very pumped up for Cam Scataboo. I think he definitely should be the RB1 there. And he can be a complete 3-down back. He can do it all. His pass pro is very good. He runs super hard, runs people over. He's a very good receiving back. I know Tyrone Tracy was a receiver in college, but Cam Scataboo is one of the best receiving backs that there is, or at least was last year in college football. And he showed yesterday how capable he is receiving out of the backfield as well. I think he had like 5 or 6 for 50 or 60 yards. So very encouraged by Cam Scataboo, one of the few bright spots on this team. But I think the Giants got themselves a good one.
Yeah, I definitely think they did too. And if you took him in dynasty leagues, it's looking like you may have yourself a future stud for a while. Good pick, Drock. Believe it or not, Drock in our dynasty league was on that.
Oh, come
Perks
on,
of being
man.
a Giants fan.
So
our final question.
I was going to say,
what'd you say?
Perks of your roommate having season tickets.
I know. Colin's going to lose because of that too. It looks like he might lose in dynasty to Drock because of the Cam Scataboo breakout game. So final question from an around the Octagoner. Son wants to know, will TreVeyon Henderson now take over the backfield after Rhamondre's 2-fumble game against the Steelers? What are you doing? All right, so go. Just walk through. You're scaring the shit out of me. He's crawling on the ground to crawl through. I was like, what? I was like, what the hell? I just look over and Garrett's on the ground crawling through. Want to walk through the frame. I'm like, just walk through.
She's trying to hide from the camera after his performance last week.
I know. I guess he is trying to hide from the camera after the 3-12. But yeah, so Son, you wanted to know, like, will Henderson take over now that Rhamondre had the 2-fumble game? Yeah, I think at this point, if he doesn't get a bigger role, I don't really know what the point of taking a running back in the second round is. 2 fumbles is terrible. I mean, you could basically point to him, and I hate to say like one play decides the game, but they were so impactful. I mean, one of them was in the red zone as well. So just terrible. I mean, and even that, like Antonio Gibson had a bigger role. It's like, I don't know. Henderson looked good to me. He looks explosive. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't try to get him the ball more. And I know, Son, we were talking off the pod, like you were saying, he hasn't fumbled the ball in like 700 touches between college and NFL. So it's like, why not put Henderson in?
Yeah, I agree with what you said there. I don't really have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you fumble the ball, you don't get to play. You fumble the ball, you don't get to play. But that's all we got for the. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So that's all we had for the questions. Once again, I mean, if you ever want to submit questions, we always post a link on our social media, or you can just send us a question directly. We'll try to get it on the podcast. We always like when people submit it, and it gives us some different questions and stuff to talk about that we weren't thinking before. But let's segue into the matchups. All right, so our first game of week 3, the Buffalo Bills. Actually, first, let me let the fans know how everyone did. So first off, with the weekly picks, we're recording this on a Monday night, so the Lions-Ravens game's happening now. I went 8-7 against the spread, 10-5 on the money line, so it gets me to 24-23 and 29-18. Colin, with an amazing week, went 3-12 against the spread, so that unfortunately knocks him to 21-26. Money line much better though, 9-6, so he's up to 30-17 there. And then Garrett, who joined the podcast, went 3-12 against the spread and 5-10 against the money line. So probably won't be bringing him back on the mic for a while, but still, we appreciate him helping out and being an extra voice. Just more of a graphics guy than I guess picks guy, I would say. And then let me update you on the Felt 5 as well. Here we go. So now after a good week, I mean, from everyone for the most part. Maybe not me, but Colin is now negative 13.34 units. I am positive 0.47 units. Garrett's negative 17.3 units. Zach, the only one with a plus week, went up 5.5 units, negative 2.65. He was he kind of got screwed over with CeeDee Lamb getting injured, so he voided that because that's dumb. Even the books voided it. So, and Dave, still the leader in the clubhouse at plus 7.74 units, but did go negative 7.08, so that cut his units in half. So current standings, Dave in first, I'm in second, Zach in third, Colin in fourth, and then Garrett in fifth. So Dave has got a commanding lead up 7 units on me, the next closest guy. So look at Drock, man. Look at Drock. Just got to segue these into Drock's locks, maybe. I don't know. But let's get into the matchup. So like I said, the Bills defeat the Dolphins 31-21. Bills go to 3-0, Dolphins to 0-3. Dolphins offense looked better to me in this one. Tua had the guys playing better. They were kind of in it till the end and then till they weren't, but a much better showing offensively and defensively. It was nice to see Ollie Gordon get more of a role because I know they were talking about him a lot, so it does seem like he'll be more involved. Tyreek with the touchdown, Waddle with the touchdown. And on the Bills side, Josh Allen does what Josh Allen does. James Cook seems to be one of the best running backs in football right now, and Dalton Kincaid with a big game. Zach, are there any takeaways from this? At least from the Miami side, are they already cooked at this point? Are they basically just at this point waiting to fire Mike McDaniel? Do you think it'll be mid-season as well?
Yeah, I think Miami's fucked. I think they're completely fucked. I don't see them having really any opportunity to compete this year. I think they're a bottom dweller team here in the NFL. Do they fire McDaniel mid-year? I don't know, man. He's a weird fucking guy. Like, a lot of people think he's like really funny. I don't necessarily dislike him, but he's just like such a smart ass when you're just losing football games, where if I were a Dolphins fan, I'd be like, get this guy out of here at this point, man. Like, why is everything some sort of like snarky, sarcastic joke when you're not even going out there winning games? I find it a bit weird. His attitude kind of bothers me a little bit, but mid-season firings, I'm really not a big proponent of. I don't see how they benefit too much, to be honest here, unless you're trying to spark something. But why would you try to spark something like you haven't won a football game yet? It's a bit weird to me. So I don't know. I'd err on the side of do not fire him mid-season, but even look at last week, and they weren't down by more than one possession until the Bills kicked a field goal with like 30 seconds left to make it a 10-point game. So they were competitive at least. So
yeah, they covered the spread. Good teams cover the spread. But let's move on. Vikings with a dominant performance over the Bengals, winning 48-10. I don't think anyone expected it to be like that. I know all of us were on the Bengals. I thought Jake Browning would have a better showing, but the Vikings got it done, but they really got it done on the defensive side of the ball. Isaiah Rodgers with 2 touchdowns, 1 fumble recovery, 1 pick six. So he was, the biggest proponent of their scoring. Carson Wentz, 2 touchdowns through the air, 1 to Hawkinson, 1 to Josh Oliver. So unfortunately, still not as, not the game you're hoping for with Jettas. We were expecting more for him to get into that. But when your defense is doing that good and the other offense isn't really pushing you, but that doesn't really help. But it sounds like we'll get another Carson Wentz start, so I'm excited to see what they can do. And then Jordan Mason looked amazing. 16 for 116 and 2. No Aaron Jones. It seems like he is the better back. Huge game. Zach, I'm going to ask you this. With the Bengals, you think do you still think Jake Browning's the answer, or do you think they should try to find other options after this performance?
I don't know. I was actually going to ask you that same question because you look at Jake Browning and he completes the ball at near a 70% split, but then when the ball is incomplete, it's an interception almost half the time. 5 interceptions,
he's a big turnover guy.
5 INTs here through like a game and a half. Has it been? When did Burrow get hurt last week?
Yeah, game and a half. That's actually incredible. 5 interceptions in a game and a half.
That's a lot, man. And I you're not going to win the ball you're not going to win football games turning the ball over at that rate. But the question becomes, who out there is better? Like, who are you going to get out there better than Jake Browning? Like, is Kirk Cousins at this stage in his career better than Jake Browning? I don't know.
Probably, but for the amount of money, is it worth it? Probably not. And also, there's a lot of people saying go get Jameis Winston, but while he might be better, I don't think he gives you anything different because he's going to be a guy. And that's the nice thing, at least for Browning. he's going to push the ball. He's going to try to give Jamar Chase and T. Higgins a chance. Where there are some backups in this league, and I always hate to watch it, where they're so like conservative, where they're not throwing the ball at all, and it's like, dude, you're like just doing check downs. You're not like, it's 3rd and 10, and you're not even trying to pick up the first down. You're throwing it like 5 yards short of the sticks. It's like, what are you doing here? You didn't even give the guy a chance. You just instantly within 2 seconds threw it 5 yards short of the sticks, and now you're punting. So there's something to be said about that as well, where you might go some of these other backup options and they're going to be super conservative, and it's not going to matter either.
Random name off the top of my head right now, but it seems like the Giants are leaning towards moving on from not moving on from, but it seems like they're inclined to start Jaxson Dart this upcoming week. I think they will move on to Jaxson Dart. There seems to be a lot of buzz picking up on that. So if Russell Wilson's the backup, what would it take to trade for Russell Wilson on a 1 year? I don't know if they can make the money work, but
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be interesting. I mean, if the Bengals gave them a pick, I'm sure the Giants would eat half that salary knowing this year doesn't matter anyway. But then again, the tough thing is too, it's like, what the hell does Dable and Shane care? If they're trading for a future pick, it's a good chance it doesn't matter to them anyway. But I still think, if Dart shows enough, they'll be able to keep their job another year. But that would be interesting. If they do ultimately turn over, maybe the Bengals should look in the Russ. I mean, he showed against the Cowboys at least. He can, when he has weapons, he can definitely throw that deep ball. And Chase and Higgins are definitely some good weapons. But let's move on. Steelers 21, Patriots 14. Steelers improved to 2-1. Patriots fall to 1-2. Weird game here. Weird game. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but Rhamondre Stevenson with the 2 fumbles doesn't help. On the Steelers side of things, the offense didn't look great. Like, I would say their defense kind of won them this game. I mean, really, Rodgers, only 16 for 23, 139 and 2. I mean, he had the pick, but kind of a clunky offensive performance. I mean, a good bounce back game for the defense, because through the first 2 weeks, I was like, what happened to this team, allowing 32 to the Jets and 31 to the Seahawks? So you definitely like to see that. So this might be more of the Steelers football we expected, but they got to get some sort of running game going, because, 26 for 64 is not Steeler football. Like, they want to be a run-first team, and I don't think they can rely on Aaron Rodgers to be this pocket passer throwing the ball 40 to 50 times a game. So even though this case, it was only 23 attempts, I still think, maybe they got to give Caleb Johnston some run. It would be nice to see him. I know he had the dumb mistake without knowing the kickoff rules, but when you draft a guy, in the 3rd, 4th round, I'd love to see him play. And for the Patriots too, Drake May had a big game. Hunter Henry had a big game, but outside of that, not a whole lot to write home about. And Stephon Diggs, I guess I was way wrong on that too. He is not really being utilized. He's not really putting up big numbers. I don't know if it's because of the injury and old age, but he is not what I thought he could be.
yeah, and the one thing I'll kind of add as far as this game goes is the Patriots essentially with their turnovers, it was a 21-point swing. They turned the ball over in their own territory that led to a Steelers touchdown, and then you had the Drake May interception like in the end zone, and then that Rhamondre fumble that was going into the end zone. So they handed over to 2 touchdowns they had in the bag, and then they gave up 1 because of a turnover. So again, you're not going to win football games playing like that. So
No,
enough said
you're
on my
not.
end there.
But let's talk about your old friend in the 3-0 Indianapolis Colts. Daniel Jones has led the Colts to a 3-0 start, and they win 41-20 in Tennessee. Titans fall to 0-3, kind of expected there. But the Colts, man, Daniel Jones, another huge game, 94.1 QBR, 18 of 25 for 228 and 1, added another 27 on the ground. But I think an even bigger story, or just as big story, Jonathan Taylor, returning to his peak form a couple years back, where he was like the best running back in football. 17 for 102 and 3, leading the league right now in carries at 60 yards, 338 on the ground, and he's efficient too, 5.6 a carry. He looks great. And even Michael Pittman, 6 for 73 and 1. It looks more like that Michael Pittman we saw from 2023, not 2024. So it seems like Daniel Jones has been really good for this offense. On the Titans side, Cam Ward, 219 for 1. Tony Pollard, like I said, he's going to be a pure volume guy, even with that offense being terrible. He still has 54 carries on the year. And Alec Ayumanor, another game with a touchdown and a couple catches. If he's in your fantasy leagues, if he's on your dynasty waiver wires, he's a must pick up to me. It seems like he's becoming Cam Ward's number 1. I mean, Calvin Ridley is borderline not startable at this point. Only 8 catches on the season. So in a terrible offense, I would say at this point he's hitting your benches. And Ayumanor's the Titan to have. But Zach, what do you got to say about Daniel Jones so far? What do you think about that as your former Giants quarterback?
First and foremost, Indiana Jones is the coolest damn nickname right now in football. I love that nickname. And you look at what he's done. And actually, let me step back for a second here. First and foremost, I believe Caleb asked a question to start off the pod. Top 3 offenses here in the NFL through 3 weeks. And I think the Indianapolis Colts, you'd have to say, has been a top 3 offense through 3 weeks. Granted, the strength of schedule has been very poor. Do not get me wrong, but they scored a lot of points in each of the first 3 games. The offenses looked great. Daniel Jones is the highest QBR in the NFL right now, which sounds just absurd to say sitting here through 3 weeks. I saw another thing where Daniel Jones is getting paid I think it was like 50 grand or 100 grand per game that the Colts win, in which he plays 50% of the snaps. I think it might have been 100 grand. So it's like 300 grand picked up by Danny Dimes right there.
Boy,
so
let's go.
Yeah, I'm happy for him, man. He looks good. Is it like
That
a
is
little
awesome.
annoying? Is it a little annoying just being like, wow, like the Giants are 0-3 and Daniel Jones is somehow 3-0? Like, yeah, it's a little like kind of sucked, but I'm a Daniel Jones fan. I like Daniel Jones, so I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's an experience I've gone through with Sam Darnold in Minnesota last year, Geno Smith when he was in Seattle. It's just an experience you have to go through, and it's something I'll probably deal with Zach Wilson at some point too. When these quarterbacks leave New York, apparently they just get better and better in other situations. So it might be a good career move. Go suck a couple years in New York, get a second opportunity, and ball out. But I will say Indiana Jones is really making a strong case right now too for that comeback player of the year through 3 weeks.
What were the odds on that?
So, when I first was telling people to take it, it was 40-1. Now I think I don't know if they have it up yet, but I last saw it was before week 3. It was 7-1. So now I'd imagine, it's closer to like 4-1 or 3-1. Because Joe Burrow was ahead of him, obviously out of contention. I think Nick Bosa was around there too, now out of contention. So that also helps. So let's move on though to the other AFC South battle. The 0-3 Texans now lose 17-10. Jaguars improved to 2-1, taking a stronghold in that division. To me, we talked about it earlier. What the hell is going on with this Texans offense right now? Defense, incredible, but the offense is atrocious. The O-line, obviously not great. Nico Collins is still getting his, but damn, without a running game and without any other real consistent options in that wide receiver core, this team looks terrible. C.J. Stroud, 599 passing yards through 3 games, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. I mean, QBR of 40. I mean, he really is regressing from his rookie year. Like, he's getting worse from even last year. I don't know what's going on with this dude. And on the Jacksonville side of things, even Trevor Lawrence looked terrible. 20 for 40, not great. I mean, ETN had a good game, 16 for 56 and 1. Tootin had a touchdown. But really, both offenses look terrible. A defensive battle. But let me ask you this, Zach. Are you concerned about the Texans, or do you think they'll turn it around?
If I'm a Texans fan, I'm definitely concerned because although they have the Titans next week at home, so you think they pick up a win over the Titans, but then you're at Baltimore, then you're at Seattle, then you have the Niners, then you have the Broncos. Like, you could easily lose 3 or 4, all 4 of those games right there, and then it's like, okay, you're a 1-7 team. Maybe you're a 2-6 team. Certainly, I don't think that they're going to be a playoff team after starting off 0-3 like they have right now. So I think there's definitely cause for concern there. And another thing is, what's the latest status of Joe Mixon?
Nothing.
Like,
I haven't heard any
right?
reports on him. I've heard none.
And I kind of thought initially, maybe I'm remembering wrong. I kind of thought it was going to be like, we might miss like the first 4 or so weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's on
like
the
he's
IR
returning.
minimum 4 games, but I've heard nothing. If anything, I would, for me, I hope they give Woody Marks, the rookie out of USC, a chance, just because he's been getting more and more touches. If he's in your waivers, go pick him up. I think he will take over at a certain point, because Nick Chubb does not look good. I mean, he had that one good run against the Bucs, but outside of that, he looks cooked. I mean, obviously, big injuries the guy went through in the league and in college, but without Joe Mixon, it's pretty evident that this offense that's a key part missing as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And no
the
Tank
Lions
Dell
just
either.
scored,
But
and it's Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown. Yeah, whatever.
sorry, felt there's no live first touchdown reaction this week. Sorry, everybody. But let's move on to one of the most shocking outcomes in Week 3. The Carolina Panthers 30-0 over the Falcons. Both teams now 1-2. Panthers, didn't even have a crazy offensive performance. The big thing was their defense. And that's honestly the thing that a lot of people always harp on is how bad that Carolina defense is. But, they made Penix look terrible. They even got Penix benched in this game. He never looked comfortable. 18 for 36 for 172, 2 interceptions. I mean, they were pretty efficient on the ground. I mean, they were still 5.7 a carry for the Falcons. Couldn't really do anything, and the Panthers just kept chipping away. Field goals, Rico Dowdle, the rushing touchdown, Bryce Young, the rushing touchdown, and then they had the one defensive touchdown from Chu Smith-Wade, a couple field goals, and you win 30-0. But Zach, let me ask you this. Do you think this is more the Panthers being a better team than expected, or the Falcons are not nearly as good as we thought?
Dude, I actually don't even know how to react to this game because I don't think the Panthers are a good team. I don't think they're that much better than I expect. I don't think they looked terrible week 1 against the Jaguars. Last week against the Cardinals, the offense looked a little bit better. I don't know, man. Like you just touched on, it's weird that their poor defense just pitched an absolute shutout. So I guess that makes me want to believe that the Falcons are worse than people thought they were. Just given they literally got shut out by the Panthers. The Panthers defense outscored the Falcons offense. I think that might answer the question for you.
Yeah, and I would say the Falcons offense has major problems. I mean, they definitely are a team that we could put in that conversation as well, because even the week prior against Minnesota, I mean, they put up 22 points, but they had 5 field goals. So they have some major issues with finishing drives. I mean, they only have 3 touchdowns on the season, so that's not good to average a touchdown a game. But yeah, there's some major issues in Atlanta right now. I would be super worried if I'm a Falcons fan. Penix obviously is, going to be the guy going forward, but not a good game against the division rival. But let's move on. The Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles, improved to 3-0 after beating the now 2-1 Rams 33-26. I know this game was electric. I mean, obviously 2 blocked field goals by the Eagles. I mean, the Rams really had this game in control most of it, but Super Bowl winning teams, they just do this. They kept chipping away, and really picked it up in the second half and got the win. And I mean, I think the Eagles kind of figured out, like, hey, maybe we should let Jalen Hurts throw the ball downfield. Maybe we should use A.J. Brown. So I think they figured that out offensively, especially with Saquon being bottled up. I mean, and that's one thing I'll give, Rams deserve major props for holding Saquon, one of the best, if not the best running back in football, 18 for 46 on the ground after he gashed them in the playoffs last year and the regular season. They definitely had a good game plan there, but ultimately Hurts' 4 touchdown performance was too much for them. A.J. Brown, 6 for 109 in a touchdown. Smith, 8 for 60 in a touchdown. So, if you're a fantasy owner of either of those two guys, you're probably very happy after the terrible first 2 weeks. So hopefully the Eagles offense continues to let Hurts throw the ball. So if you did spend up on one of those guys, they're actually startable for you. And on the Rams side, I mean, good game from Stafford, had the 2 touchdowns. I mean, Kyron, still 20 of the 28 carries. So Corum still kind of chipping away a little bit, but still his backfield. And Nakua, 11 catches, 112 yards, 15 targets. Gotta love that. And leading the league in receptions with 29 and yards with 333. So Puka, another big week. But Zach, I mean, how deflating does this have to be for the Rams? Like, what do you do at this point? That's now 3. You're past 3 times playing the Eagles. You've come up just short, and you play them tight. I mean, you got to think this is going to be a rematch in the playoffs at some point. I mean, is it just ultimately like, I don't know. I mean, is there anything you think the Rams can do differently?
That's a defeating loss, and it was special teams that lost in the football game because 2 blocked field goals down the stretch, one of which gets blocked to go up by 8 points. Philly drives down, scores a touchdown, takes the lead. and then they block your game winner and just return it just to fucking salt the wound a little bit because that's what Philly has to do, man. Those fucking scumbags. And it's even a little bit more deflating if you're for the Rams because they could touch on Saquon Barkley in the 2 times that he played him last year, ran for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was averaging 225 and 2 touchdowns a game. And you shut him down and you made their offense look like nothing for half the football game. And then, yeah, they realized they could throw the ball and they have 2 legit receivers and with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. And they found a way to win the football game. And I guess that's what great teams do. But it's just so annoying with Philly because you sit there and watch them and you just kind of know you're like, the Rams are not going to make this field goal to win the game. Philly, I think my dad said right before it, he's like, Philly's going to block this. And then they fucking blocked it. Of course they did. So I don't know, man. That's Philly. Great football team, but they just really aggravate me to say the least.
Can you tell he's a Giants fan?
Unbiased fan. Let me get my unbiased fan hat out here, man.
All right, let's move on. Talk about my Jets who lose 27-29. Bucs improved to 3-0. Big win for the Bucs here with all these injuries to still get it done at home. That's very important. Baker looked good, 233-1. Bucky not really efficient on the ground. 25 carries though. You love to see that as a Bucky Irving fantasy holder. You would like a little bit more production, than 2.6 a carry when you have 25 carries, but ultimately he had a ton of carries. Abuka, another big game, 6 for 85. I mean, on the Jets side, Tyrod started. I would say the offense looked better than it did obviously last week. Breece Hall, 9 for 21, 4 through 31 through the air. That's concerning. But Garrett Wilson, the big story here, 10 for 84 and 1. So it seems like, that's going to be the game script. And if you're an opposing team, just take out Garrett Wilson and make these other guys beat you. It's kind of similar to the Giants offense we were saying that we saw with the Chiefs last night. Take out their star wide receiver. Let everyone else beat you. It's a good recipe to have an offense have big issues. And Derrick Henry just had a big rushing touchdown. So I guess the thing with Derrick Henry is as long as it's prime time, he's going to have big touchdowns. Oh, unless it got called back. Dude, literally this guy only goes off in prime time. It's insane.
That is wild.
But Zach, let me ask you this. Tampa Bay now 3-0. They beat the Texans, who are a legit team last year. They beat Atlanta. They beat the Jets. They are 3-0, but they've won by 3 points, 1 point, and 2 points. So are the Bucs a legit team at this point, or are they just getting lucky and they're going to regress a little bit? Like, do you ultimately think this is a team that can compete for the Super Bowl? And that question we'll know more, next week when they take on the Eagles. But do you view this team as a legit playoff team with Super Bowl aspirations?
Super Bowl contender? No, I do not. Although they are one of the few teams that has won a Super Bowl as a wild card team. I don't know why I'm thinking that they're going to be a wild card per se. That is not necessarily true here at all. They'll probably win that division actually, but no, I don't view them as a Super Bowl contender. You even look at the 3 teams that they just beat, and there are 3 teams that we've talked about on this podcast of all of being underwhelming between the Falcons, the Texans, and the Jets. So I think they've done what they were supposed to do thus far. But I think in the coming weeks, they have a few tough matchups. I mean, they have Philly, and then they're at Seattle, then they have the 49ers. Like you just touched on, we'll learn a lot more about them then. But no, I don't view them as a legitimate Super Bowl contender in my eyes. I don't see them being able to compete with Philadelphia, Green Bay, and the Rams and the Lions. I don't see them on any of those 4 teams level. I don't know about you, but
no, I don't. I mean, because like I said, I mean, I know they have the injuries, but you're beating the Jets, a not very good football team, by 2. I mean, the Texans don't look like they're as good of a team. You win by 1. Like, they're not winning these games convincingly. And I mean, at the end of the day, a win's a win. Who cares? Like 3-0 is 3-0, but it's like they're not dominating. And I feel like to be a true Super Bowl team, you need to be dominating some of these games. So next week will be very telling, where if they just get boat raced by Philly, I'll be like, all right, this is probably just a playoff team. But if they're hanging around, even if they lose a close game or are able to win, it's like, all right, maybe this team is a legit Super Bowl contender.
And I'll say another thing, too, about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is that they have a long history of starting off seasons really hot. Like I saw something that was like in the last 2 weeks, the last like 6 years, they're like 11-1 in between weeks 1 and 2. So like they start off hot, it seems like very frequently. So just an interesting stat to throw out there.
Yeah, no, that is, and wow, I didn't know that. I did not know that with the Bucs. That is interesting. But let's move on. The Commanders win 41-24 without Jaden Daniels over the Raiders. Commanders 2-1 now. Raiders 1-2. Mariota did a great job stepping up here. 207 and a touchdown. Running backfield, very weird shakeout. 32 overall carries, but nobody really took the lion's share. But, effective on the ground, 6.3 a carry from that, committee of runners. And then, Terry got banged up, but 3 for 74. So, that's at least better. I mean, he needed a 56-yarder to really have the big week. But for those that were concerned, that's a nice bounce back. And on the Raiders side of things, Geno Smith was loving Trey Tucker in this one. 8 for 145 and 3, 36 fantasy points, probably on most waiver wires. Let me just say this. Do not overreact. I don't think this guy will be anything special. So, yeah, you could go pick him up. But don't be dropping like half your fab on this guy being like, whoa, he had 36 fantasy points. Like, yeah, like he'll have big weeks. But, I mean, prior to that, he had 3 catches and 2 catches. I mean, in that 2-catch game, he did have a touchdown. But if don't go out spending anything crazy. I don't think this is an outlier. Like, yeah, there might be weeks where you can flex him, but he's a flex at best. Yeah, I mean, Zach, let me ask you this. I mean, in Ashton Genty, 17 for 63. Are you concerned about how Genty's looked so far? 47 carries for 144 yards, only averaging 3.1 a carry. Does that concern you at all?
No, not really. Running back early in his rookie season, I think Ashton Genty will figure it out and be just fine. We saw just how damn good he was at Boise last year. I don't have any reason for concern there. What I do have reason for concern for is, Jesus Christ, these Raiders just got fucking ran out of the building. It makes sense a little bit why Trey Tucker did have the game he did, just given how they were playing from behind the entire game. He had a heavy target share there. So I like the points you made there about not overreacting as far as Trey Tucker goes. But to answer 2 questions, one that I posed myself and then your original one, no, I'm not nervous about Ashton Genty thus far.
Yeah, I mean, like the offensive line is just terrible, unfortunately. I mean, that's the downside when you have so many holes to drafting a running back in the top 10. A lot of these guys struggle out of the gates because it's like, all right, well, if they're picking at this point, the team sucks. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if running back, because you can have a good running back, but that doesn't fix the offensive line problems. It's not like a quarterback that can kind of hide the offensive line flaws. Running backs can't really hide a bad offensive line because if they're getting blown up in the backfield, it don't matter how good you are. So, I think for Dynasty, he'll bounce back. And maybe you play on this. If you're in a Dynasty league, maybe you could try to get him for a little bit cheaper at a discount and be like, look, man, he sucks. He sucks. Hand him over to me.
Yeah, I will say, if you're talking about if I'm concerned fantasy-wise at all, if you're in a redraft, yeah, I think there's room for concern there. Because how high was he going in redrafts? Was he?
He was a late first. Yeah, he was a late
Yeah.
first. He was going like
So
9-10 range.
I'm concerned if I drafted him 9-10 range in a redraft. Don't get me wrong, but from the standpoint of like a Raiders fan, am I nervous about Ashton Genty? My answer there would be no.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Biggest upset of the week by far. The Cleveland Browns win 13-10 over the Packers. Get the blocked field goal. I mean, so many blocked field goals this week. Insane. Then they go down. Flacco, the veteran, gets them it, and they win. Jordan Love, 18 for 25, 183 and 1, but the pick. Josh Jacobs, completely bottled up. And this might be something to look at going forward. If you have a running back going against the Browns, you may want to bench him if they're like one of those questionable guys because they bottled up Henry last week, kept him under 30 yards. And I believe week 1, Chase Brown did score, but he was 21 for 43. So this team's rushing defense, they allowed 46 rushing yards in week 1. Then in week 2 against the Ravens, granted they have Lamar Jackson, they allowed 45 rushing yards, holding Derrick Henry to 23. And now against the Packers, they allowed 81, but that's on 31 carries. So this rushing defense is elite. The Browns may have the best rushing defense in football right now. The one good thing I'll say is at least Matthew Golden is now getting involved with Jaden Reed being out. It seems like he could become that number one for him. But I mean, man, to lose this game and the offense to look that bad is not ideal. We already highlighted Judkins, but Zach, let me ask you this. Are the Browns better than we are giving them credit for? Obviously barely losing to the Bengals in week 1, 17-16, get blown out by, one of the best teams in the league in the Ravens, but then beating the Packers. Are they better than people are giving them credit for?
No, because the Bengals are a team that starts very slow each year. They didn't look very good week 1 and somehow found a way to they won that game, close game, 1-point win. I'm not a big Bengals guy, especially early in seasons. The Packers lost that game more than the Browns won that game. It really seems like it is weird that the Browns have a win over the Packers and did play the Bengals that close with Burrow. Like I do think that is weird, but the Browns didn't score any points until there was 3.5 minutes left in that game, and they had 3 scores within that last 3.5 minutes. It's a very fluky game. The Packers,
is that not crazy? I didn't even say that. Yeah, they were shut out like 56 minutes of that game.
And that 13 points came split between 3 different possessions, which is even weird. So you're like, wow, you had 3 possessions in which you scored in within the last 3.5 minutes of the game. Very strange. I mean, the Packers, it's the field goal, then the interception, then the blocked field goal. No, wasn't. All right, we're back in.
Yep,
Connection cut out a little bit. All back. All right, so picking up where I left off. I'm not sure where I left off, but just saying, I do think it was very weird that the Browns got shut out for the entire game, and then they score in 3 separate possessions within the last 3.5 minutes of the game. The Packers found a way to lose that game more than the Browns found a way to win it, with just giving up the field goal. Then you have Jordan Love throwing a stupid interception that leads to a Browns touchdown, tying up the ball game, and then the block field goal to end it. I don't know, man. I think the Browns are a bad team. The question I guess I'd rather pose is, are the Packers as good as people have made them out to be after these first 2 weeks? Because they went and beat up on the Lions, and then the Commanders game, their defense looked phenomenal there, and it did look phenomenal against the Browns as well. But do you think that the Packers may have been blown out of proportion a little bit? Because they were favored to win the Super Bowl over the Eagles, I saw.
I think their offense is definitely blown out of proportion because the defense is obviously – I don't think this offense is that good. Like, a lot of people like Jordan Love more than I do. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but I just don't think they have the weapons offensively where there's so many more complete teams with, more well-rounded, where this offense, it's like, yeah, Tucker Kraft showed some good flashes, and they're without Reed. They hope Golden develops, but they don't even have a true number 1. And, you really can't even say any of those wide receivers are true number 2s, and teams are going to cue in on all right, this team wants to run the ball with Josh Jacobs. So we can take him out and make Jordan Love beat us with some of these weapons. It's like, all right, you definitely can see the flaws offensively. I think this is a team that desperately needs to go out and get a true number 1. Unless Matthew Golden can develop into that, which I'm not going to write him off yet. He's played 3 games, and obviously he was way more involved this week, but he really needs to develop into that true number 1 for me to view them as a Super Bowl threat. But what do you think? Do you think you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I do think Jordan Love's a little bit overrated as well, and I think he's missing Jaden Reed out there. Jaden Reed is a playmaker at the end of the day. He's like the most versatile of their receivers. I don't know if that's the right word. He's like the biggest playmaker out of any of them. The biggest Swiss Army knife. You see him even that play he got hurt on last week would have been a 45-yard touchdown, but obviously they had the flag there. But I think Reed's a big piece of that offense that they're missing. But even with Reed, I don't think their offense is that phenomenal either. So
no, I think they need to make a move at the deadline, to be honest. But we'll see. Let's move on, though. The Denver Broncos lose 20-23. Chargers now improved to 3-0. Broncos fall to 1-2. Huge win for Justin Herbert. Another 300-yard passing game with a touchdown in the pick. He's leading the league right now in yards with 860, 3rd in touchdowns, 8th in QBR. So really putting together an MVP case. And like we talked about, Najee went down, but Marion Hampton, fantasy owners rejoiced. 5 touches, 130 all-purpose yards and a touchdown was great to see. We talked about Ladd before, but it is a little nervous. It makes me nervous to have him in any leagues because Keenan Allen, 11 targets, Quinton Johnston, 10 targets, Ladd, 7 targets. So, the number 3 option that you took in the second round, not ideal. But with Quinton Johnston too, I mean, at this point, that's 3 games where he's been very relevant for fantasy. So at this point, if you did spend up on him, he seems like he's a very startable guy now. I mean, he's been very relevant for fantasy. On the Broncos side, defense looked better, but the offense, man, pathetic. Nix, 150. Dobbins, 11 for 83 in the touchdowns. So he was fine. RJ Harvey, only 2 for 2, 3 catches, but it seems like Dobbins has taken over this backfield completely. It's not even a timeshare. It's more like an 80-20. So for those of you that took RJ Harvey in redrafts, unless there's an injury to Dobbins, it seems like it's his backfield. But I wouldn't panic too much in Dynasty because, Dobbins is on a 1-year deal. But, Zach, let me ask you this. Are the Chargers a legit Super Bowl contender to you, through 3 weeks and how they've played?
Ooh, I don't know if I want to drink that Kool-Aid yet on, Super Bowl contender. As much as I want to be they're towards the top of the AFC. I think they are towards the top of the AFC. And now you look at, they're about to be 4-0. They have the Giants next week. But I don't want to get ahead of myself because Justin Herbert is yet to do anything in the playoffs. So until Justin Herbert proves he can win in the playoffs, as much as I am a big Justin Herbert fan and supporter, I can't label him as a Super Bowl contender. I just can't. He needs to prove that he can do it.
And I will say too, I mean, what a terrible schedule to start out having 3 division games. That's brutal. I mean, I've well for them, but them play 3 division games right out of the gate. It did work out well, but if say there's a world where you lose all 3, you're like, well, we already are out of the division race, and it's only week 4.
It's pretty crazy that they're. Sorry about that. I'm saying it's pretty crazy that 3 weeks through the year they're 2 games up on anyone else in the division, and they've beaten all of them already. So hats off to the Chargers there. Yeah. They really do have this division in a stronghold early.
But let's move on. Biggest blowout of the week, 44-13. Seattle Seahawks dominate the Saints at home. Sam Darnold had a great game, 218 and 2. Kenneth Walker with the 2 touchdowns on the ground. Charbonnet didn't play, but it was to see him, cap that backfield. JSN, a nice game as well, 96 and 1. Torrey Holton with the touchdown through the air, as well as one in the punt returner. If he's in your dynasty leagues, you should be scooping him up. That's now 2 weeks in a row with a touchdown for him. Not a ton of volume. Still, the number 2 role is open right now, unless you're worried about Cooper Kupp, which I'm not long-term. So definitely a guy you want to stash in some dynasty leagues. On the Saints side, I mean, a ton of volume for Rattler. Again, a ton of throws, but didn't look good. And Shuck even came in and did nothing, 0 of 2. I mean, Kamara is going to be fine for fantasy, I guess, maybe. This is kind of why we said stay away. I mean, 19 touches, but only 56 yards, no touchdown. And this is kind of what we were saying. It's not even worth it. Olave, 10 for 57, so it's fine for fantasy. And Juwan Johnson, 6 for 51. If he's out in your leagues, you must pick him up. Right now he's one of the top tight ends. Definitely pick him up. He's getting ultra targeted by Rattler. He really likes him. I mean, 9 catches already this year. I believe he has, 28 targets. So an incredible amount of volume for a tight end. Definitely pick him up. But Zach, let me ask you this. Do you believe in Seattle? Do you think they can be a playoff team this year?
That's a good question. I'd lean yes. I think their offense, I think they have a lot of pieces in there on that offense. I think both the running backs are pretty good. I like Walker. Obviously, I have his jersey hanging up right behind me. But
that'd been awesome. I don't like that guy Walker at all.
Just the jersey in the background. No, JSN is a legitimate stud of a receiver. He's a wide receiver 1. I think the quarterback play, I think Sam Darnold's serviceable. He's proving that he can play decent in a system that's not just Minnesota. So I think that's somewhat encouraging there. The running backs are good. I think they're a pretty solid team. I could see Seattle being a playoff team.
Yeah, they're a weird team for me because I wasn't super high on them. Last week's game against Pittsburgh, like the scoreboard shows they won a lot better, but that Caleb Johnson fumble, fluky touchdown definitely changed that game. But they were close with the Niners in week 1, so I'm not really sure how I feel about them right now. But
I don't
long
think they win
season,
that
we'll
division.
see.
Obviously, they're not
No,
going
it's
to win
going to
that
be tough
division. So
with the Rams and the Niners and even the Cardinals. I mean, that division right now is a combined 10-2 right now. So, very, very tough division where nobody's out yet and nobody's run away with it. Well, let's move on. Speaking of that division, the 49ers win 16-15 against the Cardinals. Mac Jones has done it again. 2-0 as a starter for them this year. 284 with a touchdown and a pick. McCaffrey, just super efficient, man. I mean, looking like prime McCaffrey. 27 touches, 140 all-purpose yards. A big thing, too, here. Ricky Pearsall, 8 for 117. Love to see that if you're a Pearsall owner. On the Cardinals side, Kyler Murray, 159-1. Trey Benson did get the majority of the work, like we said, once James Conner went down. So if he's out in your leagues, make sure you get him. That, to me, that's like almost a full fab drop for the volume he will get. And then, Marv, some bad drops, didn't look great. McBride got the touchdown that saved his week, but really not impressed with this Cardinals offense through 3 weeks. The defense is pretty good, but the offense, very lackluster. I think this team's going to start to struggle soon. And the Niners, man, 3-0 with all these injuries right now. No Kittle, no Ayuk, no Purdy right now, and you're 3-0. Obviously they just lost Bosa, but it just seems like Kyle Shanahan's one of those goats. But Zach, let me ask you this. Similar to Seattle, do you think the Cardinals could be a legit playoff team, or are you expecting them to start to fall apart?
I'd likely expect them to start falling apart, especially as the season gets later on and Kyler Murray kind of dwindles out as he does towards the end of seasons. I think a lot of fans have actually gotten mad at this podcast, right, for saying bad stuff about Kyler Murray. I remember something recently, but
yeah.
No, but that narrative does seem to kind of reign true that he does underperform towards the end of seasons. And now you're James Conner. Losing James Conner going to break your season? No, I don't think so. But James Conner is a solid running back. I don't know, man. I'm not too high on the Cardinals. I never really have been. I haven't been high on the Cardinals in years at this point, so I'm going to kind of sit in the same seat on the bus I've been in for a while now, and that is that the Cardinals are not really that good of a football team.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, and I think the Niners are a legit team. I think they have Super Bowl aspirations because ultimately, similar to the Bucs, all their games have been decided by one score, but they're getting it done with a backup quarterback. Mac Jones has looked great. We'll see how they do over the next couple of games. They got some tough ones coming up with Jacksonville, the Rams, and the Buccaneers. But I don't know, man. I think you can hold out Brock as long as you need now with Mac Jones winning you these games. Why rush him back? If you fall to 1-2 or 2-1, maybe it's a different story. But at 3-0, I think you give him the full time the rest, so you're ready to go.
It definitely buys you some time there.
Yeah. But let's move on to the final 4:00 game. The Bears dominate the Cowboys 31-14 at home. Both teams are now 1-2. Caleb Williams, debatable the best game of his career, 298, 4 touchdowns. Not a whole lot in the running game here. They were pretty bottled up, but it was great to see Luther Burden get his first touchdown, 3 for 101. Dunze, another big game, 3 for 62 and 1. DJ Moore got in as well, and Cole Kmet, so all their options getting in. Dallas side of things, Dak 251 and 1. CeeDee obviously got hurt, but 3 red zone interceptions between 2 from Dak and 1 from Joe Milton hurts. Javonte Williams looks pretty efficient, but he had the early fumble. And in the receiving thing, Jake Ferguson 13 for 82. I would say if he's in your waivers, go pick him up because with CeeDee missing times, it seems like he's going to get ultra targeted. I can't tell you the last time a tight end, had 13 catches. That's insane. And then Pickens to 5 for 68 and 1. But Zach, let me ask you this. Do you see a world where Dallas can turn it around and get into the playoffs this year?
No, I think it's one of those things where let's just call a spade here. Dallas's defense is one of the worst in the league. It's so insanely bad here. The Giants lit them up like a Christmas tree last week, and I don't remember the last time the Giants offense has really done that to anyone. I guess they lit up Indianapolis one game last year, but outside of that one game last year, the Giants offense scores on no one, and Dallas made it hard to not score. Caleb Williams just lit up their defense for 4 touchdowns as well. And the only reason why the Eagles didn't light up their defense more is because I think for some reason their offense forgot that they could throw the football down the field. And I don't know, they were just very weird the first couple of weeks. But Dallas's defense is just atrocious. And especially if CeeDee Lamb's not there, I don't see how their offense will be able to keep up with a lot of teams. I see Dallas dropping a lot of football games. And no, I don't see any way on this earth that the Dallas Cowboys can be a playoff team this year, let alone even win like 8 games. I don't think they're going to win 8 games.
Now, what about the Bears? Do you think they could be a playoff team?
No, I don't think the Bears are a playoff team either. They've had the Lions ran them out of the building in week 1 there against the Vikings. They kind of blew that game. Caleb Williams looked great early and then kind of dwindled out a little bit. I don't see the Bears as a playoff caliber team this year. I think the Bears, really what they need is Caleb Williams to show improvement. And I don't even want to look at last week against the Dallas Cowboys and be like, oh, look at that, because I think a lot of backup quarterbacks in the NFL could probably light up the Dallas Cowboys defense right now. It is that damn bad. Where I want to see Caleb Williams.
Pass defenses.
Yeah, like they get lit up, dude. And I'd like to see Caleb Williams go out there and do that against a team that's not the Dallas Cowboys before I'm feeling confident in Caleb Williams. But I was a step in the right direction there for the Bears. It's nice to see your quarterback, your number 1 overall quarterback, play the way he did. So they got to feel good about that. But I want to see it against someone else.
All right, Zach, we got to talk about the final game, Sunday Night Football. Reminder, we're filming this on a Monday, so we won't be talking about the Lions, Ravens. But Kansas City Chiefs finally get a win, 22-9 on the road over the Giants. Giants fall to 0-3. A must win for Kansas City where, if you fall to 0-3 with the Chargers falling to 3-0, you're basically fighting for a wild card at that point. Mahomes looked pretty solid last night, 224 passing, a touchdown. The run game still not really able to get going. A ugly timeshare with Pacheco and Hunt. Really don't want to have either if I, have them in fantasy. Tyquan Thornton, the big target guy last night with the big game for the receiving room, 5 for 71 and 1. On the Giants side of the things, Russell Wilson, terrible game, just some errant picks. The one bright spot, Cam Scataboo, 121 all-purpose yards, a touchdown. He looks like a guy. But this was kind of one of the things that I highlighted with I thought teams would start to do this. And I think now, unfortunately for the Giants offense, unless they're, move on the dart, they kind of just showed, hey, this is how you expose the Giants team. Take out Malik Neighbors, do whatever you have to do to take him out, the Bill Belichick approach. Let all these other guys beat you. And it was showing last night that, Russ didn't have the patience to take what the defense was giving him and was forcing some balls. So, Zach, let me ask you this first. We'll start with Kansas City before you can talk about your Giants. Do you think Kansas City is back, or do you still think there's big issues after watching this game last night?
Well, it's weird because I was sitting there in the fourth quarter, and I thought the Giants looked absolutely awful the whole game. Their offense was atrocious. They couldn't finish drives. They couldn't really drive the ball much at all, to be honest with you. And I'm sitting there in the fourth quarter going, wow, it's a one-possession game right now, and there's like 5.5 minutes left. Like, I know last year the Chiefs didn't really beat up on any teams, and every game was pretty close towards the end. And I don't know, man. That's a bit weird, but it is hard to write off any team with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. So I have faith that they will figure it out. And even if they're like mediocre all year, somehow you're sitting there in February and you're like, how the fuck are the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again? Like, that wouldn't surprise me by any means, but they definitely do have problems. Their offense is not the greatest because a lot of their success on offense last night even came in the run game. Like, they were able to run the ball on the Giants last week. They ran for over 100 yards, and their run offense has been so fucking terrible this whole year. They're not really going to be able to run the ball on many other teams besides the New York Football Giants. They just have an absolutely terrible run defense. So I don't know, man. The Chiefs definitely do have some cause for concern on their ends as well, but I do err on the side that Patrick Mahomes, any team that has Patrick Mahomes on it, will probably figure it out.
Let me ask you one final question. When do you want to see Jaxson Dart? Because now you've had 2 terrible games of Russ and 1 amazing game of Russ.
So it seems like Jaxson Dart will be playing next week. I think Jaxson Dart very well might start next week. Now, if you're going to ask me, is that what I'm rooting for? I don't really know, man. going into the year, I didn't really want to see Jaxson Dart play this year as a fan. I was like, best case scenario, Russell Wilson runs out the year. The Giants win a few football games. Dable has to feel fine about his job, which means that the team is on a good trajectory. And now we're 3 weeks in, and everyone's calling for Jaxson Dart to be playing. So, you know what? I'm not excited about this Giants team at all. So it does give me something to be like, oh, I'm excited for this. But I do think it's probably better to let them progress and whatnot and learn under Russell Wilson for a season. But fucking man, people are calling for it now. The Giants have just been the worst team in football for way too long now, man, where it's like, let's get the fans excited. Brian Dable wants to save his job. Fuck it. I guess you could throw him in at this point, man, because if Brian Dable loses his job, who even knows that the coach next year would want Jaxson Dart as their quarterback. So we got to see what we got now, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I would rather see them start him this week versus his first start in New Orleans. I think it's a better spot to start him at home. Let him get a game under his wings. I know it's the Chargers who are 3-0, but to me, I'd rather give him a home start versus on the road, even with the Saints being as bad as they are. New Orleans is a tough environment to play in, and it's like, hey, let him play behind the home fans, get that energy going early, and then, hey, if he doesn't have the best start, well, guess what? He's got the Saints in his second start where he can build some confidence versus, having all those jitters and first game stuff. So I think I like that approach way better, and then, it just gets him more and more reps before he's got to go on that huge gauntlet where you got Philly twice in a 3-week span. So, I think it's the right move. And let's see. I mean, it's unfortunate for the kid in the sense where everybody's calling for him right now. So if he struggles out of the gates, that's not going to be a pretty sight. But I also do think they should trade Jameis Winston, to be honest. I don't really understand the point of bringing him in. One of the two they should trade between Jameis or Russ. That still is such a head scratcher to me. Why would you bring in Jameis Winston? For what reason?
I don't know if they didn't know they were getting Russ. They brought in Jameis, but it seemed like Russ kind of wanted to be a Giant, has wanted to be a Giant earlier in his career. He's talked about it. Like I've seen that floated around. He wanted to be in New York. I don't know if they weren't confident enough that they were going to be the ones to land Russ, and then Jameis was there. I don't really know. I don't really have a good answer for you there, but yeah, man, this thing with the Giants is I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel here, man. So it's a depressing time being a Giants fan.
There is some light. There you go. You got Neighbors, Scataboo, and Dart. Maybe that offense will be looking real nice going into next year. But Zach, that's all we got for tonight, man. I appreciate you joining us, taking a break from the UFC to come talk some NFL with me, filling in for little bro tonight. Really appreciate that from you. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar with Zach, he does the UFC pod, so go check it out. If you're, UFC fan, they do some cool interviews with some professional fighters in some of the different leagues. They're on our YouTube. They have their own page on Instagram where you can see just UFC content and other mixed martial arts as well. But Zach, you got any final words before we wrap this up?
100%. I want to say thank you very much for having me tonight, Reagan. It's a pleasure to go and talk some ball. And yeah, for anyone listening, if you have any interest in any mixed martial arts, check out around the Octagon. There's some cool shit coming out soon, but appreciate everyone for listening.
Yeah, and thanks again. And make sure to like, subscribe, drop a follow. Only helps us grow. We appreciate it if you stuck it out with us this long.